Hello, friends. Hello, friends. So that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy. No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you ready to reach for the stars? Tune in to The Lost Wanderer, the #1 monthly podcast on good pods in astronomy. Join our host, Jeff, as he takes you on an interstellar adventure to explore the mysteries of space and the wonders of science. From rocket launches and distant galaxies to the latest discoveries in astronomy, each episode is a thrilling ride through the cosmos. Don't just gaze at the stars. Come explore the universe with us. Follow The Lost Wanderer wherever you get your podcasts, and let's discover the stars together.
My dad was really, really special, and I loved my dad a lot.
I'm proud of him, and that even though he isn't here with us, but he died as a true hero.
I miss everything about him.
In the moment that the officers and I had to come see the children, my biggest reaction was, I don't have 7 arms. I have 7 children who just lost their father, and I don't have 7 arms to wrap around them.
I'm Frank Silla, chairman of the Stephen Silla Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Our foundation is committed to delivering mortgage-free homes for Gold Star families and fallen first responder families.
To not have to worry financially is a huge peace of mind. The thought of, what in the world will I possibly do to pay the bills? How will I possibly let the children have a life that feels normal? I don't want them to have to quit their piano lessons or their basketball. I don't want them to feel that we have to move into a little apartment and struggle financially in addition to the emotional weight.
There are over 1,000 families that need our help. Tunnel to Towers is honoring those heroes that risked their lives by providing them with mortgage-free homes.
Those who serve us and then lay down their lives protecting our freedoms and our safety, the least we can do is $11 a month to give them that peace of always knowing there's a home, there's that sanctuary when life feels like it's been tipped upside down, because it has. When you lose a parent in the line of duty, to know you can go home, you can be safe, there's no risk of losing your home. That's a peace of mind that I can't believe you can get for $11 a month.
I'd like to ask you to contribute $11 a month to support their efforts.
Please donate $11 a month by calling 1-844-BRAVEST or visit tunneltotowers.org.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available.
Hello, friends. Give a moment so that we may
budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
America's on the rails. We're trying to change tonight. From the halls of power to Main Street lights, we're tracking the shifts, exposing the fights. Truth seekers rising in heartland flame. Ricks calling names and we're joining the game. No filth, just no fear. We pull back the veil when the system rebels. We refuse to pale. America off the rails. Wake up calls and rebel tales. A chain horse is in the news, standing strong. to state level plans. We're calling the shots that'll shift the sands. Listeners rising, tuned in for truth. United we stand, one nation, only one.
And welcome in to America Off the Rails, day 6 of the shutdown. And there's still no Red Pen Brigade. Where's the Red Pen Brigade? I was promised a Red Pen Brigade. Where are they at? Donald Trump has had 6 days to mobilize Doge and start sending people not on furlough, not laying them off, but firing them like he said he was going to do. We're 6 days in. There was a vote again today, just a couple hours ago, where they basically proved that they have no interest in doing anything for me and you. And of course, that's where we're going to start, because we're in day 6 of the shutdown. My name is Rick Robinson. This is America Off the Rails. We do this every Monday night, 10 p.m. Eastern. And then shortly after I'm done, we'll be heading over to our SHR Media friends, and you'll be listening to Edge of Liberty, hosted by Sean Lewis. And that will be our programming end for the evening. Hope you guys are hanging around from Spirited Books. That Aggie book. Monster porn is the thing, yo. It's an actual thing. I never thought I would live in a timeline where monster porn was an actual thing. All right, so anyway, on to the show itself. So let's start talking here. So day 6 of the shutdown, and this is the shutdown that solves nothing. Washington's favorite drama, blame, brinksmanship, and borrowed time continues. And this is where we are. So we've got both sides screaming and yelling at each other that it's the other side's fault. Now, I would like to remind everybody who keeps wanting to tell me that this is all the Republicans' fault, because we control the House, the Senate, and we control the executive branch. We don't have a 60-vote majority. Now, I will say this. I'm a little irritated that the Senate just hasn't nuked the filibuster, because I've been telling them to do that since like day one. Look, nuke it. Get everything passed that you want to get passed. Expand the court. Pack the court. And then put it back. Especially if you find out you're losing in November, put it back. You have 2 months before the next crew gets sworn in. Then see if they have the cojones to do it too, because they've already told you they're going to. If they get another chance, they've told you exactly what they're going to do. So you have a decision to make. Are you going to continue to act as if we are not in a fight for our lives? Or are you actually going to hold these people to their word? Because that's my question. Is when do we start holding these people to their words? They've told you what they were going to do. This is why I'm frustrated with Donald Trump right now. Because he told us, like, second day in, everybody started talking about, the whole Russ vote thing, and now he's going to be the Grim Reaper. He's going to come in. He's going to clean everything up. He's going to make it all better. And he hasn't done anything yet. But why hasn't he done anything yet? That's my question. And I wish I had an answer other than I feel like we're playing politics again. And that's what has me the most upset. So, just like we knew it would, tonight's Senate vote on stopgap funding, the stopgap funding measure failed, confirming what we already knew. No one in Washington is serious about solutions. The vote wasn't even close, and both sides were already pre-writing their press releases before the gavel dropped. Republicans do currently hold the White House and under President Trump, majorities in both chambers of Congress, and yet the Senate 60-vote rule continues to give Democrats veto power over anything short of unanimous GOP unity. Democrats are now trying to paint this shutdown as chaos under conservative leadership, but it's a hard sell when they've refused to engage in any meaningful negotiation. Because they aren't. They're trying to hold the government hostage for $1.4 trillion. Meanwhile, the GOP has managed something rare, surface-level unity, with Speaker Mike Johnson and Majority Leader John Thune keeping the message focused on what can only be called fiscal sanity. Still, here we are. Day 6, and the American people are once again held hostage by a system that rewards performance over production. National parks are shuttered, Don't really care about that. Non-essential workers are furloughed, and I have a question about that. Again, why do we have non-essential government workers? So, and yet, the entire time these people are telling us they're trying to find ways to get this fixed, they continue to find time for their selfies and cable hits. What if I told you that tonight's failed vote wasn't about policy? It was about posture. The Democrats are betting that a prolonged shutdown will hurt the GOP brand going into the midterms. The GOP is betting that voters are tired of being guilt tripped by a party that can't pass a clean bill without a bailout clause attached, and a rather hefty one, I would like to remind you. But while DC does its favorite dance, the real political story, the one that could have national implications, is unfolding in Virginia. We're going to be getting into that in a second, because there's a scandal that has exploded. But first, I would like to remind everybody the Democrats are holding the country hostage. Period. Full stop. End of discussion. Which is why I want to see Russ vote, or Voight, I think is how his name is pronounced, and Donald Trump going in with red pens and cleaning it up. I don't want to hear about excuses anymore. I don't want to hear about how, well, we don't really know if we can do that for this reason or that reason or this reason or the other. I don't care anymore. We're in a war. And if what's happening in Virginia and what's happening in Portland and what's happening in Chicago doesn't show you that, then I don't know what will, because we're going to be getting into Portland and Chicago later tonight too. Like the presser that happened today with the chief of the Chicago Police Department, who basically said, we never told our people to stand down, and yet there's radio traffic, in fact, confirming that people have been told to stand down. So which one is it? Which one is it? Because look, if that's the stance you're going to take, if that's the hill that you feel like you need to die on, then you should own it and say, no, we are not going to respond to federal agents in trouble because we feel like they're the Gestapo. Because that's basically what's happening. You have one side of the country that has decided that these people are nothing but jackbooted Hitler-esque thugs that are rounding up people and just throwing them in gulags for no reason. As a matter of fact, and I tried to find it and I couldn't find it before showtime, there's a video going around of somebody dressed in a PD uniform zip cuffing a kid. Guess what? And I'm going to find it for tomorrow, because we're going to talk about it again. Because guess what? The guy whose video has been going around as somebody from ICE that was zip cuffing a 2 or 3 year old child. Guess what? It was he and his son playing cops and robbers. This is the America that we live in today. They are willing to lie to your face, to gen you up, to make you upset, to make you willing to march in the streets. We are watching rules for radicals play out in front of our faces yet again. And guess who made that even more possible than it ever was before? None other than Barack Hussein Obama. Because he made it legal for propaganda to be used on American soil against American citizens again. He did that. The Democratic-led Congress at the time helped him, but he signed it. And we may go back into that a little bit tomorrow, too, on The Daily Show. But for now, let's go ahead and move on to segment 2. So as we get into this mess known as the shutdown, will there ever be any form of consensus for the left other than holding everything hostage? Because let's face it, in this day and age, this is the first time that I can say this in pretty much my political lifetime that I've seen our side, at least as far as I can tell before I started rolling this show, sticking to our guns, and their side kind of falling apart and not really knowing what to do, not having a message to stick to. They keep trying to make everything about healthcare, when in reality they tried to strip $50 billion from rural healthcare out of what was already part of the bill. And the thing about it is, what we keep being shown over and over and over again is this. The Affordable Care Act is anything but affordable. So why are we even still messing with it? And before anybody says, well, we need to fix it or we need to replace it, no, we need to get rid of it. There are ways to fix our healthcare system. One of the best ways to fix our healthcare system is actual transparent pricing. Because you don't even know what you're paying for half the time anymore. Because nobody cares, because it goes to your insurance company first. One of the stories that stuck with me, and it's somebody that I heard about here locally, who decided that they weren't going to use their insurance to pay for their labor and delivery for their child. Well, apparently the hospital didn't realize that they didn't submit their insurance information, so they sent them a bill for like $32,000, I believe, and said, please provide your insurance information. And they promptly responded that they're paying cash. They got a revised bill for like $2,500, which to a lot of Americans is still a hell of a lot of money. But where's the difference in the price tag coming from? And I've talked about this before. This is the problem with the ACA. You are no longer an active participant in the cost of your health care if you have insurance. And the ACA has made things so much worse. Everything's firewalled and compartmentalized now, all of it. And it's making all of it so much more expensive because that's what happens when the government gets involved in your business. Everything gets more expensive. Please see in the 60s and the 70s when we decided that please don't let your babies grow up to be plumbers. Send them off to college so they can become doctors and lawyers and such. Yeah, so we started wanting to send all of our kids to college because that was the wave of the future. So the government decided to start trying to make college more affordable for all the people that wanted to go there. But then what happened? Universities started raising their prices. Universities started making themselves basically remedial schools because they realized that nobody was being taught anything in K through 12 anymore. So now they've got them for anywhere between 4 to 5 to 6 years, even on a 4-year degree, because they've got to do 2 years worth of catch-up work first before they can even start their regular studies, while they've got the government on the hook for 85% of the money. Our system is broken. Our education system is broken. Our medical system is broken. But if we're going to have serious conversations about how to fix our medical system, we can't do the same thing we've been doing with our education system. Because what we've been doing with our education system is just throwing money at it over and over and over again. The more money we spend, the better the kids are going to be. The more money we throw at this, the better educated our kids are going to be. And where does all that money always go? To the top. To the school administrators, to the union leaders, to the union presidents. That's where that money always goes. So we keep throwing money hand over fist, and yet we keep seeing all these different studies that show that second graders can't do stuff at grade level, fourth graders can't do stuff at grade level, eighth graders can't do stuff at grade level, seniors can't do stuff at grade level. You're telling me you have our children for 13 years counting kindergarten, and they can't do anything at grade level anymore, and somehow it's not supposed to be your fault? That's what you're telling me? If you need to see the future of of the ACA, all you really need to do is look at the Department of Education. Because if you think it's bad now, if we don't, in the words of Barney Fife, nip it in the bud, it's only going to get worse from here. We were number 1 and then on our way to number 2 in the world in education when we centralized it. Look where we are now. Look where we are now. Yeah, and that would have been great. But I see it. I don't know. Because I was surprised because last Tuesday night, Brad and Aggie were both on camera. So I thought maybe she'd be on camera again tonight, but I guess she was afraid she'd blush too much. Oh boy. All right. Anyway. So give me just a moment here. All right. So there have been some updates with that Virginia AG shockwave that we've been keeping up with that kind of started breaking over the weekend. So This is a direct quote from an article. Delegate Carrie Coynier, Republican from Chesterfield, sat down with Virginia Scope Monday and revealed that back in 2022, she received a series of text messages from Democratic Attorney General nominee Jay Jones. Messages that she says alluded to a much darker conversation they'd had 2 years earlier. According to Coynier, during a 2020 debate over qualified immunity, that's the legal protection that shields officers from personal civil lawsuits, Jones told her, and I quote, maybe if a few of them died, they'd stop shooting people. Coynier said she was stunned and told him it was insane. She stood by her belief that removing qualified immunity would get more officers and even more civilians killed. Jones actually denies this accusation completely. In a statement Monday afternoon, he said, I did not say this. I have never believed, and I do not believe, that any harm should come to law enforcement. Police officers put their lives on the line to protect our communities, and I'm deeply grateful for their service. Now, the issue that we have is we can't be the ones to litigate this. We can only discuss the conversation points here. One says it happened, the other denies it flat out, but what we can examine is what this story reveals about where our politics have gone. What we can also do is look at the exchanges that we do know about that were recorded in text format. And what do we always say? In psychology, the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior. Works in reverse too. So if he was saying this stuff 3 years ago, he was probably saying something very similar in 2020. But that's just it. We don't debate anything anymore. There's no policy debate. As a matter of fact, there's my way or the highway when it comes to the left. And now they're getting a taste of their own medicine and they don't like it, because that's exactly what you keep hearing Speaker Johnson say, and Leader Thune say over and over and over again. This is what has been agreed to. This is what we're trying to pass. Either get on board or get out of the way. But I would like to remind all of them that are kicking and screaming and hemming and hawing about how terrible this is because, the Republicans won't negotiate. Elections have consequences. Barack Obama, 2009. I warned you guys way back then, with as heavy-handed as he was being, that at some point we were going to get a turn at this again, and you were going to discover that we were better at this game than you were. We just weren't wanting to play it. So I'm going to say this again. You guys wrote the rules. You set up the board. You started playing. We kept telling you we didn't want to play this way. But you kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And now we're starting to play the game that you created, which is why you have an AG that is spinning out right now because cancel culture got him because he was stupid enough to text things that never should have been said, even that never should have left his brain pan, whether verbally or by text, ever. Well, I didn't mean it. And rereading those messages made me... No, it didn't. You have been caught, just like the rest of your compatriots that love to say all these hateful things because you know it's going to gin up your voters, and you know your voters think that we're all Hitlers, so anything that you say that demonizes us makes them cheer. We've never tried. I don't try to do that with you guys. As a matter of fact, and I've said this before, until September 10th, 2025, I firmly believed that Democrats were smart people with stupid ideas. I didn't blame the people. I blamed their ideas. You know what? I'm starting to blame the people because I'm starting to see the hate that permeates through all of you. And before, there's hate on your side. No, there's not, because you guys don't seem to understand how this works. Political ideology is not a flat graph broken into 4 quadrants. It is a sphere, just like the planet. You go too far one way or the other, you wind up in the same place. So all the hate stems from the same place. Why do you think that there's so many leftists now that hate the Jews? That's a Nazi thing, right? Remember? Well, only rabid white right wingers hate the Nazis. Really? So you're admitting that people within your own party are rabid white right wingers now? Because that's kind of what you're saying, ain't it? I mean, it's what you're saying, ain't it? But again, we've gone from debating policy to weaponizing and even reveling in pain. I remember after the memorial for Charlie Kirk, all the people that were saying, "I don't, she's not normal. She's not a grieving widow. She's not showing any of the signs of somebody that's grieving that they've lost their husband." You know what? Everybody grieves differently. Hell, I didn't even lose my wife. We got divorced and I'm still grieving. It's going on 6 years. And I'm still grieving in my own way. Because everybody handles grief differently. But the idea that half the country has just decided that we're less than human is astounding to me. But the problem was, it didn't start with those everyday average people. It started with the leadership. Ever since 2016, 2017, we heard, get in these people's faces. If you see members of the Trump cabinet out and about in Washington, D.C., you chase them out of wherever they are. If you see them at the gas pumps, you get in their faces. You push back. You fight back. We've never said that about Democrats. I know I haven't. I've been willing to debate them. I've been willing to talk about issues with them. Hell, I have a friend that I used to do a podcast with who's writing up an article based on a Facebook post that I put out not too long ago because he wants to, and I quote, politely disagree with what I said about empathy. That's fine. I'm willing to have discussions and disagree all day long. I'm not willing to have you tell me that I don't deserve to breathe because my politics are different than yours. Now, to a lot of folks, qualified immunity is worth debating. To me, it's really not. As somebody who's carried a gun and wore a badge, qualified immunity is an important thing for law enforcement because it gives you the ability when you are making split-second decisions to not have to second-guess yourself. Because when you have to second-guess yourself, which, trust me, is what they want, there's a good chance you're going to wind up dead. And as I used to tell the people that I used to train when I ran my own security company, it is much better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6. And if you're having to second guess yourself in the field every second of every day because you're afraid that without qualified immunity, they're just going to come after you no matter what you do, now you might be starting to understand why there are so many police officers who don't engage anymore. Not only are there those like we're finding out in Chicago that have command structures that tell them not to. You also now have the Supreme Court telling them they have no duty to protect, which makes them glorified security guards. And I should know because I was one. Security guards have no duty other than to observe and report for the purposes of insurance. That's it. That's what the Supreme Court turned our police into during the Obama years. Glorified rent-a-cops. I can say that I was one. So whether Coiner's account is accurate or not, this story is a case study in what happens when moral absolutism replaces moral clarity. Clarity when being replaced by absolutism is not about justice anymore. It's about making the other side look evil. And remember Joe Biden's Death Star speech in Philadelphia, flanked by Marines with being bathed in red light, as he talked about half the country being terrorists. We all joked and called that the Death Star speech. The problem is pretty much what it was. Obama may have started the ball rolling, but Biden finished kicking it down the road. Now, again, back to this story with Coiner, whether it's 100% accurate or not isn't really the issue, because the key here is that Jones did actually sponsor legislation to remove qualified immunity when he was in the House of Delegates. That's public record. But as everyone knows, there's a line between doing what you think you need to do to reform the system and cheering for suffering. If this quote was misinterpreted, Jones should prove it and move on. If it's accurate, voters deserve to know who's running for their state's top law enforcement position. And for the GOP, this is a chance to learn message discipline. Don't overplay it. Don't sensationalize it. Just point to the words, the policy, and let voters connect the dots. But after the break, because we are going to take a quick break, even as this scandal is grabbing all the headlines in Virginia and starting to suck all the oxygen out of the race, Virginia's political machine is grinding forward, and there's new money pouring in. Money that up until today, people weren't sure they were ever going to see. So we're definitely going to talk about that in just a second. My name is Rick Robinson. Whoops. Let me fix this real quick. My name is Rick Robinson. This is my show. We'll be back in, I think this one runs for about 4 minutes, so we'll be right back. 3.5. We'll be back.
We need a hero,
someone who save us from ourselves and our own self-destruction. God only knows we need help. Looking for a hero, someone who cares about the future, not about themselves, but about the idea of America. We need a hero, someone to show us the way. We need a hero who speaks for the people and what we have to say. We still believe this land of the free is still America. We still believe in the land of the free, and we need a miracle. You know this freedom is anything but free. What we have here depends on those who will fight for what they believe. When we stand together.
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Again, happy Monday. That's right. You survived it. Monday is pretty much in the books. Worst day of the week for those of you doing the Monday through Friday thing is done. Stick a fork in it. Thank you for hanging out with us. Looks like we had a good crowd for the previous show. Got a decent one for this one. Hoping it was going to be a little bit bigger, but that's all right. Usually the ones that don't have good live numbers get great podcast numbers. So either way, we still get the numbers. So I'm okay with that. But we're here, we're live, and we're gonna get through the funding change up that just got announced for Virginia. So for you guys that don't know, I freelance right for Salem through Twitchy, and the grand poobah over at Twitchy is actually somebody that I've known for years. We actually worked together first at K98 Talk and then K-Larn Radio. And then eventually she's like, hey, we're hiring freelancers. And I'm like, I'm down. Let's go. But yeah, she is big in VA politics. She was big in, I think it was Montana politics until she moved. Her husband took a job that meant they had to move to the Virginia area, which actually helped her because that let her get her gig with Twitchy, and now she's like the managing editor over there, which is awesome. But she's been freaking out because, as near as she could tell, there's been no ground game for either the AG candidate for the Republicans or even, Winsome Sears. So she tagged somebody today, and within a couple of minutes of her tagging somebody and then getting a few of us to put it out, he started messaging her and be like, I promise we're there. Well, I don't know if it's because of the conversation that they had or what happened, but there's been a drastic shift today. So let's talk about what's happening on the ground in Virginia, because while scandal dominates the headlines, strategy determines the scoreboard. This week, Axios confirmed that the Virginia GOP has launched a $1.5 million ad blitz hitting Jay Jones over those controversial texts and his recorded policing policy. That's not just an ad buy. It's a message. The party is putting real money behind Attorney General Jason Miyares and signaling that Virginia is not being surrendered. At the same time, Democrats aren't sitting idle either. The Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee just announced another $1.5 million infusion into state races, boosting House Democrats candidates and the lieutenant governor race. That means $3 million of fresh cash just landed in Virginia politics within days. Half of it to clean up a scandal, the other half to capitalize on it. The money's flowing, the messaging is flying, but here's the problem. According to field operatives, the ground game hasn't caught up. From folks that I'm hearing from, some counties still have inactive voter files, undertrained volunteers, and minimal door knocking. In short, ads are running, but nobody's walking. That's how Democrats win close states. They out-organize. We learned this lesson after 2020. We relearned it again in 2022 and apparently need to learn it again in 2025. How many times we're going to have to relearn these same lessons? Money matters, but people matter more. Ads are air support. Boots on the ground are the infantry. When campaigns trade canvassing for consultants, they lose the real connection, the human one. So while this new wave of funding is welcome, it's only effective if it reaches real voters. If not, it's just sound and fury, signifying that someone, somewhere, still doesn't get it. And that's the takeaway from today. With these ad buys, what I hope happens is as more and more ads are starting to be pumped into the system, it actually helps to increase the ground game there. And this is something that I have wished the GOP would have done forever ago. They should have hired Scott Pressler. That man has an amazing ground game. An amazing ground game. He's pretty much single-handedly, well, I don't want to say single-handedly, but he's one of the driving factors that's put the New Jersey governorship in play. Because he has an astounding ability to mobilize people. And I've been saying this along with other people. I know one of my co-hosts who stepped away for a while has said it before. The GOP should have brought him in after this successful election cycle and had him start training grassroots ground games everywhere. It can be replicated. The problem is, and we keep coming up with the same problem. We've got this newer crop of GOP who want to win, who want to do whatever it takes to win. But you've got the older crop of GOP that are used to being the Democratic lapdogs, that are better at fundraising when they're the underdogs, that are better at fundraising when it's, if you give us our turn, we're going to fix it. The problem is we keep running into the same thing. We keep giving them a turn, and they don't ever manage to fix anything. And I'm starting to feel that way about this damn shutdown. I know I already mentioned that, but I'm going to say it again. It's been shut down for 6 days. Where are the people being handed pink slips? Where's the president saying we don't do non-essential government services anymore? We're gonna start figuring out how to do those through the private sector. Why can't we do that? All right, so let's take a quick look at the headlines. Last word from Capitol Hill: Senate talks remain frozen, with Schumer and Thune trading sound bites instead of concessions. But again, Thune doesn't really have any concessions to offer, because the problem is the Democrats only want one thing, and it's $1.4 trillion. So markets are wobbling as the shutdown continues. Federal contractors are currently in limbo. As of new polling data that we've been able to find tonight, a slim majority of voters now blame Democrats for the ongoing shutdown, a reversal from last week's numbers. Meanwhile, in Virginia, online ad metrics show Mayeris' team gaining traction with swing voters under 40. Who says a scandal can't change the trajectory of an election? So what have we learned today so far, kids? The only thing DC can agree on is what's for lunch. Polls are shifting because people can spot hypocrisy faster than headlines can spin it. Shutdowns aren't leadership. They're proof that the swamp's still feeding itself. So there's another part of this, though, that I want to talk about real quick, because the other thing that nobody's talking about is the fact that in part of this bill that the Democrats are talking about, you know, their version of the CR, part of that $1.4 trillion, some of that money goes back into their pockets, kids. Just being honest with you, some of that money goes right back into their pockets, kids. So again, this is a shutdown that doesn't actually shut down. It just shutters non-essential services, which again makes no sense to me, and probably not to most of America, as to why the federal government ever handles anything that would be considered non-essential. DC's arrogance, a scandal that shows how broken The tone of politics has become in a campaign war that keeps spending but still forgets how to show up. But here's the thing, folks. You don't need another headline. You've got probably millions of those, depending on where you look. You need a plan. So I'm going to say this again. Call your Congress critters. Demand fiscal responsibility and functional governance. If you're hearing this in Virginia, volunteer, organize, and prove that conservative values still have grassroots fire. Because this fight from Washington to Richmond, it's not about party lines. It's about whether we still believe the Republic is worth defending. So you tell me, ladies and gentlemen, is the Republic still worth defending? Because to me, I'll tell you this much. It is definitely still worth defending. So you need to ask yourself that question. Is it still worth it to you? Is it worth fighting for? Is it worth saving? Are there ways that you could be getting involved in your corner of the world? Even if it means getting involved in maybe your kids' school board. Or just making sure that your neighbors are taken care of. Look, not everybody has to do the heavy lifting. And I have a lot of folks that have been reaching out to me ever since the Charlie Kirk thing, wanting to find out how they can get involved. So in the last few minutes of the show, this is what I'm going to tell you. Find a way to make your corner of the world the best that you can make it. Make sure that you and yours are okay first. Then start working your way outward. Even if it takes a minute, start making sure you've got supplies if you need them. Make sure you've got access to money for an emergency if you need it. And I know that's hard right now. And trust me, I'm not preaching about it because even I'm not that great at it. But I'm telling you, it's something that we need to start working on. Then once you've gotten everything shored up for your immediate vicinity, then start working your way out. If you have the time and the energy and want to get involved, start signing up with your local groups. There's public work groups out there all over the place that you can get involved in to figure out how you can volunteer to make the world a better place. You might even be able to start being asked to do public speaking if you feel like you're led to do that. There are so many things that we can do. Just little steps to try to make things better. I know everybody thought, and I've talked about this with one of my own sons who is wanting to get involved in public sector life. And I'm like, look, I know national politics is sexy. It's where I make 90% of my money. But it's not where a real difference is made. Just look at DC. They've been shut down for 6 days. Has it impacted your life, really? Because half the things the Democrats have told you were going to happen haven't happened yet. Now, if it continues to go on long enough, there can start being some negative things. But if the Democrats are already starting to lose the messaging, and it vastly appears that they are, then they better wise up. Because they should have just kicked the can down the road and then started fighting for the ACA stuff. That's what I would have done. But they know if they do this now, they lose their leverage. And they know that the only reason the Republicans are saying no was because the Democrats were the ones that agreed to these COVID era rebates for the ACA having a sunset clause. And now the Democrats want the sunset clause gone, or they at least want to kick down the road. All right, so we've got about 5 minutes until I got to start making the transition over to our SHR friends. So in closing, I would like to talk a little bit about what happened in Chicago. Hey, we have an owl sighting in the chat. Welcome in, sir. Hope you're having a great Monday. Thank you for coming to see me for a minute. But we got to talk about Chicago because the police chief in Chicago deserves to be run out of town because he just lied to everyone. But here's the problem with a police chief. Whether it's the chief or the commissioner, depending on the department structure that you have, they serve at the pleasure of the mayor. The mayor of Chicago has already made it very adamantly clear that he does not want to be helping ICE. So did you really think that just because the chief of police said, "Oh, no, we didn't do that. We didn't tell anybody that they couldn't show up." You really think that isn't what happened? Because guess what? There's There's audio proof that that's exactly what happened. There are radio dispatch calls from the leadership on the leadership that night. No. Turn them around. We're not responding to those. This makes me angry, but this is, like I said earlier, this is a combination of so many different things. This is feeling like your department doesn't necessarily have your back if you try to do what you think your job used to mean 10 years ago versus what it means now. And it's funny because even the chief of police in Chicago said that today. I don't want to hear from anybody who's never done this job or somebody that hasn't been in this field for years because things aren't the way they used to be. And so, therefore, we can still look at you and point and laugh because you're a laughing stock and you deserve to be a laughing stock. And I'm sorry if I were, and I don't know how things work in Chicago, but I know here we have state troopers that again, all the cops in Oklahoma have state seals on their badges, meaning whether you like it or not, all of their jurisdiction is the state of Oklahoma. And it didn't used to be that way. There used to be city seals on their badges. It changed years ago. They started putting the state seals on their badges because then if they saw something, even if they were off duty, all they had to do was call into their dispatch to have them contact the other jurisdiction's dispatch, let them know they were on scene and ask them if they wanted assistance with what they were reporting. And it worked pretty well for a time. But the first thing I would do, because I'm sure that Illinois has some form of state police program. If I were somebody that was one of the higher ups in that state police program, I would start deputizing all of the ICE agents. Because then they have state jurisdiction too. Now, I get it. I know they have been going through Illinois for years and putting people in positions of authority that would follow the rank and file and do what the mayors want to do and do what the what are they called? The aldermans want to do and all the other whatever weird names they have for crap out in Illinois. So I'm sure the fix is in and it's pretty apparent, just like what's happening in Oregon. But I had this conversation with BZ the other night. I don't know where we go from here. Because it would be impossible for me to do that kind of job today. All right, quick hit on the way out the door. Apparently, Stephen Miller got a hold of somebody today because they were using talking points on ICE. So I think we have a quick clip, and then we're probably going to just jump straight over into Sean. So hang on.
We're set to hear from JB Pritzker.
I don't think it's a couple minutes. So yeah, we'll probably go straight into Sean. But I want to hit this on the way out the door. So hang on.
We're set to hear from JB Pritzker in just moments. He says that you're attempting to inflame tensions and create a war zone. He also says that you are profiling, that you're targeting black and brown people, even those who turn out to be here legally. What's your response?
Well, first of all, the black people in Chicago are thrilled that we're getting the illegal aliens out of their communities who are stealing their housing, jobs, and resources. You've seen the video of the town halls during the Biden administration where black citizens who are natives of Chicago were begging to have the illegals taken out of their country. What they've done is they've created a system of law in Chicago, in Illinois, where illegal aliens have far more rights than American citizens. If an American citizen, for example, commits a crime of sexual predation against a child, they'll cooperate with the FBI. If an illegal alien commits a crime of sexual predation against a child, that illegal alien will be shielded in an ICE no-go zone. I ask you the question, what is the right term to describe a local official declaring a no-go zone for ICE? Would you tolerate it for FBI, ATF, DEA? No, you would not. But there is an effort to delegitimize the core function of the federal government of enforcing our immigration laws and our sovereignty. It is domestic terrorism, it is insurrection, and no amount of insane, hyperventilating lies from Pritzker or Johnson or any other Democratic official will change our minds on that. ICE officers should not have to live in fear and violence to do their jobs. Period.
So on the substance of the question, is it the case that, as Pritzker frames it, you are profiling brown people, that this immigration crackdown is designed to go after people of color?
It's such a, oh, what a dumb question. The illegal aliens who are here are taking jobs away from blacks, they're taking jobs away from whites, they're taking jobs away from Latinos, they're taking their health benefits away, they're taking their school slots away, and of course in many cases they're committing heinous crimes. We cannot have a system of law in this country that privileges illegal aliens over American citizens, and that's what they're doing. You know it, and I know it.
So that's not exactly a no, Stephen. Can you just unequivocally state that the immigration
I said it's
policy...
a dumb question. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that, but
it's a dumb question.
So no, this policy is not designed.
I thought when I said it was a dumb question, it meant no.
Well, I just want to be clear and precise. I appreciate you trying to qualify my questions, but nevertheless, I think it's a fair one that a lot of people have.
My full answer is no. That is a lie, and it's a dumb question.
My full answer is no. That's a lie, and that's a dumb question. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this particular episode of America Off the Rails. I'll be back tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, right here live on KLR Radio for the Rick Robinson Show. Don't forget, come back Sunday night. We've got a new series starting on Kingdom and Country. Go check out our X feed if you want to find out more. I'll start putting that on all the other socials, and we're going to start working on getting some individual I don't necessarily want to say newsletter style stuff going because it'll probably wind up being on Substack, but we're going to start putting some stuff out for show notes, etc., because there have been a lot of people that have been asking. But we're going to get out of here. Again, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to hang out with us. We started slow, but we ended pretty strong. For only being on for an hour, we got to almost 400. I will take that. Hang out for Edge of Liberty here in just a couple minutes on KLRM Radio simulcast. Also live on SHR Media's X feeds, YouTube feed, Facebook feed, and their Rumble feed. Best place to chat will, of course, as always, be their Rumble or their YouTube. Have a great night, everybody.
Get ready for truth bombs, belly laughs, the kind of accent that turns car into a two-syllable adventure. Here's your host, Sean.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us, me, however you want to call it this evening. It is the 6th of October, 2025. Real quick, and I know most of the country won't have any idea what this is, but just had a Reach Air med flight helicopter that I have a large hospital not far from my house at all, where I broadcast from, and it crashed on takeoff, and it landed, or it crashed right in the Highway 50 in Sacramento, which is not far from me. So I was, of course, they just taken off from UC Davis, from what I'm being told from people that were there. All three, the two pilots and the flight nurse, or the third person, was transported to the hospital. So hopefully they're okay. But yeah, of course, it happens in your neighborhood. All your neighbors start blowing up everybody's text messages and everything else. So I was trying to deal with all that. Hopefully they will be okay. And of course, my number one rule with my studio setup here is, because I have some pretty expensive equipment, is never, ever, ever put a drink on my desktop, because I know myself. I spill all the time. Well, because I'm answering 100 text messages and, trying to find out a little bit more information about the helicopter crash, I put my drink right here, which you can see on camera. And at one point, my hand went this way and the drink went that way, and it went all over the desk. This is at 7:58, I think, when I'm going on air at 8. So now I have to panic and grab paper towels and napkins and everything else and try to get it cleaned up. And hopefully my keyboard is okay. But yeah, so once again, for Sean starting his show, it's just chaos. It's all chaos. And I'm just caught right in the middle of it. And I'm trying to get sorted. I know I'm missing. There we go. Missing certain devices. Have things all over the place. I got to get them fixed. I got to get my lighting right. And now we can settle down into the actual show. Good evening to the chat. Thank you so much, chat, for being here. In the chat, you had BZ, who was first for once in the chat room this evening. He is actually first for once. Mission Ready Men is in the chat. Thank you. He was trying to be first. I appreciate the energy going into the show where you guys are fighting for first place. Jersey Joe is in chat as well. If you didn't see it, Jersey Joe is back tonight, 6 o'clock. He had a great show. You can check it out on YouTube. Also, he put up another video on YouTube talking about the history, and it's just an educational video. It's just information, but it's important information, and it's about the history of violence amongst the left. So make sure you check that out. Ricky Robinson's in the chat room. Thank you so much, Ricky, for being here. Chaos is baked in whenever I do my show, Rick. I know that there's nothing I can do about it either. It's almost like chaos just happens to love and find me. So let's start it off talking about Portland and Chicago.
Bullshit.
Exactly. Both towns are, in fact, bullshit. I don't even know. Gosh. Both are such a train wreck. Normally, when you're setting up shows, when you're setting up topics, you start off with your biggest train wreck first, and it's easy to identify, right? It's very, very easy to identify 95% of the times. This is one of those times where it is, in fact, not easy to identify because both are such a festering pile of a shit show that they're out trying to outdo each other as to the worst response by a municipality towards a federal operation. So I'm going to start with idiot number one, because then we're going to talk about the supremacy clause. Oh, guess what I didn't do, folks? There it is. 3, 2, and here we go.
Aimed at reining in this out-of-control administration, the order establishes ICE-free zones.
ICE-free zones.
That means that city property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids. And today, we are signing an executive order aimed at reining in this out-of-control administration. The order establishes ICE-free zones. That means that city property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids.
Now, a couple things here. You got to think about the message that he's sending versus the word that he said. Now, on the forefront, it's pretty simple. You can't use city grounds, which, okay, even though it's public property, we could have that argument all day long. And unwilling private businesses to stage. Notice how he stayed away from enforcement. You can't enforce federal law on state and city lands. We won't allow it, blah, 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 blah. And why is that? Now, I want to introduce to you something that many liberals and Democrats don't exactly understand. And I think they don't want to understand for the majority of them. Of course, as we deal with incidents like this, you have to remember there's a couple different groups involved. There is the controlling opposition, which is the politicians and the leaders on the left who say things so the weak-minded amongst them starts to believe it. And then they set the direction that weak-minded group is going to go. Okay. They brainwash, for lack of a better term, by using these little dog whistle things. That was a dog whistle video. What he said was they can't use city property on unwilling businesses. But the way it was phrased, he called them ICE-free zones as the mayor of Chicago. Now, if you are not educated, what did that mayor just say to you? ICE isn't allowed here. Much like the masks in California, that California passed a law that peace officers can't wear masks covering their face. It doesn't apply to federal agents. However, the weak-minded amongst them don't know that. What they're going to do is see federal agents with masks on and then do stupid shit like try to arrest them for it, citizens arrests. And they're trying to up the temperature with statements like this. Now, the responsible thing would have been him and Fatty Pritzker to come out and say, like it or not, federal agents are legally doing what Congress has passed a law for them to do. You don't have to like it. You can peacefully protest across the street from federal buildings peacefully, but you have to stay out of their way and let them do their jobs. And as BZ just said, ipso facto, if ICE is present, means ICE can be shot at, assaulted, and beaten. We will get there. But the Supremacy Clause is the backbone of federal authority. The exact wording from the Supremacy Clause is the Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of the state to the contrary notwithstanding. In other words, outside of state laws, outside of the 10th Amendment, which a lot of people don't understand the 10th, but that's okay, states' rights. If the federal government has rules that supersede and laws that supersede state law, then the federal government is allowed to act. No state law can stop them from enforcing federal law. No city can do that. They cannot like it. They can complain. They can file lawsuits, which they have, yada, 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 but they cannot physically stop them. And I would even argue that perhaps using intentionally loose, unsafe words is obstructing them. So the meaning and the purpose of it, as I just said, is that the federal law is the highest level of the land, and essentially outside of states' rights, there's nothing you can do about it. Now, has this been tested in court? Some people may ask. 100 times. I mean, maybe not 100, but a bunch. McCulloch versus Maryland, 1819. Gibbons versus Ogden, 1824. Worcester versus Georgia, 1832. Abelman versus Booth, 1858. Nagel, 1890. Pennsylvania v. Nelson, 1956. Cooper v. Anderson, 1958. James versus Dravo, 1937. Arizona Public Service versus Seed, 79. Haywood versus Drowns, 09. United States v. Washington, 2022. And in all those cases, you cannot obstruct or discriminate against federal operations. So you got to understand that everything that these mayors, governors, and the police chiefs, because you have two wingnut police chiefs going off the edge, everything they're saying about the federal government is not true. It's absolutely not true. They have the right to enforce all of these federal laws that they're enforcing, i.e., in this case, the immigration detainers and removal orders. But they don't educate people. They don't talk about the Supremacy Clause. I am shocked that they haven't somehow twisted the word Supremacy Clause into White Supremacy Clause. But that's neither here nor there. They'll get to it. They're working on it. They will eventually round their way to it. Now, over the weekend, I believe it was Sunday. Oh, I'm going to get to that in a second. No. Actually, let me say this now. I think it was Sunday. You had federal agents who were making an arrest or en route to make an arrest be boxed in by a group of cars, local people who are living under the delusion that the left has created, and in the incitement of violence against the federal peace officers that has been going on now for months, surrounded and boxed in a federal vehicle. This is not, I see so many people who's like, oh, that's not true. Do you have any proof? That's not true. Do you have any proof? Yeah, there's a whole bunch of videos of the both vehicles that were involved in the collision and the boxing in that are online. It's a black Cadillac Escalade that was ramming into the federal agents. Allegedly, a woman was shot because she pulled out a weapon and pointed it at the federal officer. Fuck around and find out moment. And the Chicago mayor, who is systematically, he is unbelievably fighting for the stupidest human being of the year award, came out and said essentially, well, this is kind of their own fault. Oh, did I mention? I kind of forgot about this one. There's audio recording of the police being asked to assist in that incident because the federal agent said, hey, we're getting outnumbered. This is dangerous. We need local authorities because we have people violently attacking us. Law enforcement was dispatched, Chicago PD. And then it just gets crazier from there.
To confirm, 39th Police in Kedzie, they were saying that they were being surrounded by that large crowd, and they were requesting the police were not sending. I'm waving off all the cars heading to 39th Police in Kedzie.
Again, those are the orders we're being given.
Okay, 10-4. And again, for all the units that we called to go over that way, 39th Police in Kedzie, if you could just hold off 911, 913, 923, 924, 933, 934, just disregard that, 39th Place in Kedzie.
So you heard that with your own ears. This was from Chicago PD's dispatch. This was the live recording that was done, calling them off, calling the peace officers, the cops off from backing up the federal agents who were being surrounded and asking for help. Now, there used to be a rule in law enforcement that if another cop's calling for help, all bets are off. Everybody would go until the situation was stabilized. That used to be an unsaid, unneeded to be written rule. If a cop's calling for help, everybody goes until it's safe, and then we figure it out from there. What you don't hear in that audio that was played in the longer version is allegedly the chief of patrol. I don't know who that was. I don't know if it was an acting for the evening. I don't know if it's like an officer in charge or if it's a stationary position like this one chief of patrol 24/7, called them off. And you heard per radio call sign 999. And you have to ask yourself at some point, how far have we gone where cops, federal or otherwise, can be attacked? I'm being told it's Chief Hine for Chicago PD from BZ. Thank you, sir. And no matter what you think, about their operation, you refuse help. And then you go on air and give a half-ass, mealy-mouthed reason. And this is the Chicago PD Superintendent, Larry Snelling, talking about the Trust Act and how it forbids law enforcement in the state of Illinois from engaging and assisting federal agents when it comes to immigration. Watch this.
Let me first talk about the Trust Act. The Trust Act prohibits law enforcement in the state of Illinois from engaging in assisting federal agents when it comes to immigration enforcement.
Stop. Now, here's the difference. They were not asking for them to take somebody into custody for ICE. No. What they were saying is, we're getting surrounded. We are now at risk, and we need help. Chicago PD said, no, we're not coming to help you. And now this weasel's trying to say that it has to do with essentially the sanctuary state law in Chicago.
We abide by that law.
In other words, we're going to hide behind this and let cops get potentially their asses kicked for doing their jobs, whether I like the job or not, because I am politically appointed and my political aspirations and my political controllers and higher ups demand this. Demand this. Mission Ready Men in the chat room, and you can get in the chat room too if you want. Just go to SHR Media on YouTube and click live chat. They were calling for backup. How do you not back up a fellow officer? And, you know, Mission Ready Men, you and I can tell you what you would do in this situation. You could tell me what I could do in this situation. BZ, Rick, the rest of us, me and Mission Ready Men specifically, because we have both been in that situation together. We have done that sitting next to each other. This is, and the fact that, and maybe it just hasn't come out yet, the fact that no cops were suspended or written up for refusing to follow the order and for going and helping the federal agents makes me furious as well. And I'll tell you, I know a lot's changed in law enforcement since I've worked in it a lot full time. I know Phantom just showed up into the chat room 20 minutes late. The Phantom is 20 minutes late, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's different, but even this, from talking to all my friends who still actively serve in law enforcement, even this is different. It was not, and I have friends in the most liberal cities, including the one I live in, who said, no. Even if, no matter what's going on, if a cop's calling for help, you go, plain and simple. No questions asked. And that has been eroded in this current generation of law enforcement. And I'll tell you something, that happened on purpose. They have, with this younger generation of cops, completely changed what law enforcement used to be about. Law enforcement used to be about bad guy goes to jail, we'll deal with everything else as it happens. That was the important thing. You take care of the victims, your victims. That's what I was taught. Your victims come first. You take care of them. You go get the bad guy if needed. All the other stuff we can figure out. But in the situation where there's a victim and you have the opportunity to act in the moment, you do. Now, when it comes to immigration detainers and deportation orders, I would argue that all of us, the nation, are victims of that crime, and it should be enforced. But now, instead of doing what is right, they do what is prudent. And that is entirely just, it's nauseating. It's horrible. It's why law enforcement services have gone down and the effectiveness has gone down in a lot of cities. I haven't even gotten to Portland yet. This is just Chicago. Wait till I get to Portland. It gets better. I was talking earlier about the video of the attack on ICE agents, and here's that for you. See the blue lights? New York Post. See the black SUV? Watch. Look at, he's trying to pit the law enforcement vehicle. Now, the driver of that vehicle is lucky for a couple things. James Harbin and Shotgun, that's not a real lawman. This is woke DEI, worthless chief. You know, I'm not even going to say DEI per se, but this is what the leftist cities do politically. They put in people that they know they can push around. Either they have bigger political aspirations or they're just absolute yes men and women and do whatever the city councilors and the mayors tell them to do. So it may not be specifically DEI. I think the Chicago mayor was a cop for a long time. I don't think he was just an anointed mayor, police commissioner out of nowhere. Oops, sorry, I'm getting blown up again. But his position when he took this, and this is, and I know BZ's probably screaming at the video, this is the difference between sheriffs and police chiefs. Yeah, sheriffs are elected, the people choose them. The police chiefs are appointed by the city council and the mayor, and they work at the whim of the city council and mayor, and they know they can be fired entirely if they absolutely have any sort of higher political aspirations, running for city council, running for mayor, running for governor, or some other office on the higher political land, then they know, especially in the Democrat Party, that if they don't do what they're told starting as chief or commissioner, then the Democrat Party will destroy their chances of moving forward. It is all politics. As Mission Ready Men said, political hack. Political hack. And it's sadly very true. Watch the rest of this video. He took off. I'll tell you right now, that driver of that Escalade is unbelievably lucky that he was not shot in the seat through the back window of the pickup truck that he rear-ended. Unbelievably lucky. And I don't know if it was a single cop in the white truck. I don't know if he couldn't. I don't know. I just don't know. But he was lucky that he didn't stay on the brakes and just turn around and start firing through the back window. The first impact, okay, could have been a crash, but when he accelerated, he's now using that vehicle as a weapon. He's trying to harm the officer inside. Use of force is acceptable. Deadly force in that situation is acceptable. Why? Because that vehicle that he is using to push that federal cop's car is now a weapon and being used against the officer. And it's grotesque on so many levels to watch this. The mayor said, I'm looking for, there's another comment from the mayor I had saved here too, where he just made himself look like a bigger idiot. Oh, by the way, over the weekend in Chicago, 30 people were shot. So they're so worried about federal agents enforcing federal laws that they're not even paying attention to what's going on in their own city. They don't care about it. Remember, every 4 hours and 14 minutes in Chicago, a person is shot. This is from HeyJackass.com. Cosmic Bar, good evening, sir. Thank you for joining us. Every 19 hours in the city of Chicago, somebody is murdered. From 9/28 to 10/4, September 28th to the 4th, you have 12 shot and killed, 37 shot and wounded, total people shot 49, total homicides 13. And they're trying to play, you don't have the right to be here with ICE. Because as I've said before, this is the focus they want people to have. They want people to have focus on this fight because it takes the eyes off of what a rest of a nightmare the cities are, specifically Chicago. This one, we'll get to Portland here shortly after the break. But that's all this is. So this is from Jonathan Turley, and he said it great. Now, I can't say it any better than he did. He's talking about what Larry Snelling was saying. He said, Chicago superintendent just denied the story of the failure of CPD to assist ICE agents, even though we all saw the video. He states the CPD officers were present. However, they're also recording the CPD officers ordered not to go, as we saw. The Fraternal Order of Police in Chicago, John Catanzara, I apologize, John, says someone is lying here and just accusing the CPD of lying. In other words, he says it's been 72 hours since the incident, and they clearly knew what happened despite the denial of the superintendent. So you have the FOP in Chicago, Fraternal Order of Police president, saying, hey, CPD's lying. Chicago PD is lying about this. They're saying it didn't happen. They're saying that the radio calls that you and I heard did not occur. This is the cover-up. Here comes the cover-up for it, or the attempted cover-up for it. It is unbelievable to think, because I'll tell you right now, if he came out and he said, hey, there was a miscommunication, the troops should have went, they should have backed them up, I don't know where this went wrong, we're looking into it, it kind of ends the story for a little bit. I mean, there's an investigation where you want answers, but you take a little bit of accountability and you can sit on that for a while. And they can't do that. They just have to go out and lie, just like the left loves to do. This is the Democratic just fucking mission statement. Lie until it becomes the truth. Goebbels 101. You saw the videos. We heard the police audio. The police chief said, by the way, that audio you heard was bullshit. It's a lie. He is lying. And that is how badly they want to cover up how disastrous of a city they actually fucking have. We'll be right back.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
What's going on here? There it is. Welcome to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. So second half an hour. Hey, make sure you check out our good friends over at KLRN Radio. They're simulcasting my show as they do, and I greatly appreciate it. Please check them out. And of course, all the other great shows here on SHR Media. And if you want to do the, I don't want to say, it's not bisexual. What is it when you are on two different networks at the same time? I can't remember, but the Cosmic Bar does that here on Sundays at 5 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media and YouTube. So if you want to check him out, please do it. A couple comments from the chat talking about constitutionality and chiefs and sheriffs and what oaths they're swearing to. And that's a whole other show that we can go into. I know BZ has done that entire show on his show a couple months ago. BZ says, you can't believe the cops now. Nothing they say. They're going out of their way to lie. In some cities, yeah, BZ. I don't think that's every single city. I absolutely get that those of us who worked in that industry, who see it now and work in that field, are completely disgusted. But there's some good municipalities left. There's some good chiefs left. It's just fewer and further between. Politics has, as the Democrats wanted it to, become everything. It used to be politics back in the day in law enforcement was like, hey, the city councilman wants you to show up at his daughter's birthday and say hi to everybody and wave and stuff like that. And he thinks he'll make him look really cool. That used to be about as political as it got for a long time. As far as politics integrating with what the guys on the street do and the gals on the street, that's entirely different now. And I know that in a lot of cities, but California is not the whole country. Chicago's not the whole country. Portland's not the whole country. But it is happening more and more. So I get what you're saying. I'm not going to paint with the broad brush on that. I just can't do it right now. Here's the $50,000 reward for information regarding the assault on federal officers and damage to government property. That's from FBI Chicago. So this all happened. The Chicago police chief acting like this didn't happen is just a new level of disgusting. But look, speaking of disgusting, it's not just Chicago. I wish it was. But then you have people like this in Portland. This is from Fox News Live Now.
Who is a conservative influencer and journalist. He says that he was simply covering the protests, but he has, of course, been charged there with disorderly conduct. What can you tell me about that arrest overall?
Well, what we're seeing with the increased national attention is bringing in nationally recognized influencers. This is certainly a new phenomenon for myself and for law enforcement in general, and their reach is obviously very significant. And so,
hold on. The first point he's trying to make is acting like this is some sort of new things, that new media personality. He's talking about the arrest of Nick Sorter, which I'll get into, but I just want you to meet Chief Bob Day first. He's trying to act like all of a sudden influencers and people showing up with their own smaller networks like this one to report on incidents going on is some sort of new thing that law enforcement doesn't know how to deal with. We don't even know. Guys with cameras, cell phones, like, I know the technology is 10 years old and people have been doing it for 10, 15 years, but we don't have a clue what to do with this bullshit.
they're going where they can get the views and create the perception. And our belief.
See what he did right there? He's already setting up to blame Nick Sorter. If you don't know who Nick Sorter is, just go on X. He's got a big channel. He does a great show. I like Nick, actually. He's been in Portland covering all of this. But you see how to the general public, he is trying to diminish Nick as a human being. He's trying to make it the entity and that he's trying to do something bad, trying to change opinion. No. The rest of the country already has this opinion. We're just documenting what the assholes in Antifa are doing in Portland. But let's go on.
Is that we are simply managing to the rule of law. Our role is to mitigate crimes, violence, etc. There was a disturbance involving Mr. Sorter. We took 3 people into custody, and those cases have been referred to the district attorney's office.
Now, I'm not going to rehash the Nick Sorter thing all night just because it's out there. Nick's telling his own story. He should, in my opinion, he shouldn't have been arrested. Because what Chief Day is forgetting to add is he has constitutional rights as well, Nick Sorter. And just because he's an influencer or he broadcasts for social media and he's got a big following doesn't mean that he has any less rights than you or I. He's still a normal human being. Now, when he went there were people threatening him, surrounding him. He put out a burning American flag and people started pushing and assaulting him. Right or wrong in your opinion, legally, he's in the right to be there. He's in the right to show this story nationwide. I don't care what you think about Nick Sorter. The simple fact of the matter is he's an American citizen who absolutely has the right to be there. He's no less of a press member than somebody on Fox News. Just because he doesn't have the same broadcast platform doesn't mean that somebody going there to cover a news story and trying to do it through his rights as a citizen can be diminished or squashed. It's no different. He's as human as you or I. He's an American as you and I. His laws don't cease because he picks up a camera. Sorry, his rights don't cease because he picks up a camera, as Chief Day was trying to insinuate there. So Nick went to court today, and this is what happened. This will not shock you.
Your initial reaction to hearing that the charges against you were going to be dropped, and why do you think the DA decided to do that?
I think it was a smart move because all of the evidence was in my favor. There was no evidence against me at any time. So everybody there has a camera for the most part at these demonstrations or whatever we want to call them in the streets. And all of those videos that came out showed that I was the victim. I was the one that was jumped. I was the one that was thrown into a hole. I was the one that was punched. I didn't punch anybody. I didn't break.
Said on the Fox News interview here, you can see the arrest video from Nick Sorter. That's him being arrested.
Break anybody's camera. My crime was filming in public, filming people that don't believe in First Amendment rights for conservatives, I guess. And that's where this whole thing started. I should never have been arrested. I should never have been put through the ringer. And I shouldn't have the chief of police on TV slandering me during the day. Instead, he should be focused on pulling the rot out of his police department. And maybe this will make him think twice about, I don't know, the direction that the department is going.
Now, Nick brings up a million different points, and I don't think he's wrong on any aspect of what he just said. He shouldn't have been arrested. He shouldn't have been charged, which he wasn't in court, but he shouldn't have been charged that night. And the police chief siding with the officers in this case, it is crazy for me. I don't know if Oregon has, like California has, where it has 849B, where you can unarrest somebody when they get to, if you get to a point where you realize there's just no probable cause, you need to end the case for whatever reason. But the simple fact of the matter is, he never should have been brought to jail. He never should have been booked. He never should have been handcuffed. He was attacked. He was attacked, and we showed the video last week, and you've seen it 100 times on social media by these mask-wearing Antifa pussies. And, you know, we've had several conversations in private with several people. I say we, I mean SHR, in our group chat, but outside the group chat. And the aspect of civil war keeps coming up. And first and foremost, I do not wish for it. I do not want it. I do not want violence in the streets. I do not want violence in anyone's neighborhood. Okay? It is something that we don't need to tolerate in this country. We should not tolerate. But many on the left are calling for it in these private chat rooms and Reddit and all these other shitty little places where these mongoloids just fester all together, and a bunch of reprobates just beating each other off verbally and telling each other how great they are and how strong they are because they can paint their hair 92 different colors. They can put on a mask and they can go out and protest and harass people that have use of force rules that they have to follow. They are bullying federal agents and peace officers is what they're doing, because they know they have rules they have to follow. The problem is these little nitwits in Antifa have never actually had to deal with fuck around and find out in real life. A couple of them have here and there. We've seen the video. We've all laughed. You got the shit kicked out of you because you stepped in where you should have shut your mouth. But they've never felt it on the scale. This is the generation of everybody wins. You're always right. Act out on your emotions, etc., etc. And they think, they're convinced, that should something like this happens, that they stand a chance. And I submit that the first time 95% of them, minus the little bit of their population that's prior military, who loved the socialism aspect of military where everyone gets paid the same, everyone gets treated the same, blah, 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 blah. They can't get out of that. They can't operate in the real world beyond that. So they join up with these idiots and they want communism, which is all Antifa is. And when you hear Antifa, just think pro-communism, because that's what their outcome is. The first time these little weasels get into a skirmish with former military, former cops, just the redneck, good old red-blooded American sons of bitches that would be opposing them in the streets. And they realize that those people are not playing by either the Geneva Convention or use of force rules, and they start stomping holes in them on a whole new level. It's going to be the end of it. It'll be over before it starts. Because we all know none of these people have ever been spanked by their parents. And the first time they truly get the shit kicked out of them, I'm not talking about taking a little bit of OC through a mask. I'm not talking about being handcuffed by people who are respecting their rights and trying not to hurt them because I've learned a procedure. And if I break the procedure, I'm going to get sued and I could get fired and blah, blah, blah. No. They're dealing with people who don't give a fuck, that just feel like they're a threat to society. And I think it would be over before it started. That's my honest to God opinion. It would go street to street. It would not be lines like we saw in the original Civil War. That's not going to happen. It'd be skirmishes in the streets here and there, and it would be over quickly. Now, I will say this again and reiterate again before I get taken off the air. I do not want that. None of us on our side want that whatsoever. But the left seems to keep pushing for it because they're so used to bullying ICE agents who have to follow rules and procedures that they think that's how it's going to be everywhere. So let's go back to Portland because I want to show you. Oh, by the way, hinting on Chicago, Governor Abbott of Texas approved Trump sending Texas National Guard to other states to assist ICE if he has to, so that you have that out there. But I want to go back to I get another part of Chicago that most people aren't talking about. A Latin Kings gang leader in Chicago, and this is from CWB Chicago. I know I was covering Portland. I forgot about these stories and I went off on a rant. You'll have to excuse me. Federal prosecutors say a high-ranking Latin King gang member put out a $10,000 hit on the Border Patrol commander overseeing Operation Midway Blitz. So that's what's going on. And that tells you like how scared these people are in Chicago. Let's see. Oh, this is one. This is what you're dealing with. This is the intelligence of the Antifa people you're dealing with, which is why they'll never get far. Which is why, yeah, they're organized online. They're tough guys behind the keyboard. They have Reddit squared away. They have their little chat room squared away where they just verbally beat each other off. They have all that down. I'll give that to them. But then you put them to test verbally. Physically, we've seen what happens. They all cower. But verbally, this is what you get. This is the typical, and I'll say this again, angry white female liberal, aka she is an awful, talking to a patriot who happens to have a darker paint job than her. Listen to the language that she uses.
There's a way to do it. Let's be facts though. You used to be a slave.
Oh my gosh.
She just told him he used to be a slave. So that's her perception of him right away, is that she is saving him. He doesn't know what's good for him. Now, that's not reality. You can tell by his response, and his friends are all laughing. But that's her perception. That's the reality the left has built into these people's heads, is that gentleman sitting right there with the American flag and the MAGA hat was, in fact, a slave.
I cannot believe she said that.
I was a slave in prison, but I'm not a slave.
I've been to prison too.
Then you were a slave.
I did 5 years.
Oh my God, you're hard.
So you see when he was like, yeah, I was a slave in prison, i.e., I did what I was told in prison because I fucked up and I went to prison. Clearly, he's done better with his life, and congrats to him. And he's trying to like explain to her the difference. Like, hey, I was in prison. I know what it's like to be captive. I'm not captive right now. There's a humongous difference. And she's like, yeah, I did 5 years. This isn't a whose balls are bigger test. You're making accusations to this gentleman, and he's straightening you out.
I beat 2 federal cases for bank robbery and guns.
I beat 2 federal cases for bank robbery and guns. Notice she said I was falsely accused. No, she said I beat. So she did it most likely. They just threw it out because she's in Portland.
No, can I suck my dick because they can't get me. I'm a smooth criminal with my shit.
But yeah, no. I mean, there's a way there's a process. Everyone has that process.
That's the black girl.
So okay,
this one? Yeah. She thinks she's black.
Now I'm just raised by niggas.
You're the
Did you hear what she just said? I won't repeat the word, what she was quote unquote raised by. Now, kudos to this gentleman here for having decorum, respect, intelligence, and self-control, because a lot of people wouldn't have put up with even half her mouth before they lost their shit. And I wouldn't blame them anytime you're dealing with somebody that ignorant. But I also have to say that you will notice that they are not crowding around him and trying to antagonize him. You'll notice they're all kind of giggling along whenever he giggles. Holy shit. Is that an inferiority? It's a weird, like, superiority inferiority complex. Like, that dude commanded a presence, and they all knew if they stepped up to him, if he had to defend himself, all of them probably would have lost. So my hats are off to you, sir. Let's see. I got a couple of stories. This was put out a few times, but this is in Chicago recently, and this is all the same story. I had a whole bunch of other segments lined up, but I only get 10 minutes left, so I'm just going to run this out to the end. This is what they're being told, Antifa, to bring to protest. It's a shopping list. This is incredible. When they say there's no organization, there's no, Antifa's not really a thing, there's no groups, there's no conspiracy. This is conspiracy to commit crimes going on right here. Should anybody who follow this commit a crime? This is what they tell you if you quote unquote plan to protest. Inform someone who is stationary that you are where you are and check in with them. Get a burner phone and leave your main device at your house. Only put important numbers in there and nothing else. They're checking phones. Carry a copy of your identification card. Leave the original at home. They're taking and keeping IDs. Record everything that you can: names, license plates, tattoos, and identifying marks. This will end, and they will face justice. So you see their mindset that's going on right there. This is why they think they're in the right. They're being told this is an injustice, that people being arrested legally for entering the country illegally by the agency that's sworn to do it to enforce the laws that were approved by Congress is the injustice. Record everything you can, as I already said. If you have the means, put an attorney on retainer. There are also free legal services. I'll try to research them. Get a gas mask and filter, chemical grade eyewear. They sell all of this on Amazon. Wear long sleeves to put a barrier between the chemicals in your skin. Cover your head as much as possible. Ice sightings are being posted right now on the Ring Community Forum. If you have a Ring, turn on your notifications app. By the way, and I'm sure I'm not the first one to say this, perhaps the federal government needs to be looking into Ring and what's being shared on there. And because if it's being used for a criminal activity, that is problematic. Let's see, where else? A couple more stories here. I want to get to, oh, you know what? I need a laugh. You need a laugh. Everybody needs a laugh. If you don't follow Polita Rican on X, he is absolutely hysterical. He loves making all the AI stuff and all the fun stuff. And he posted this today, and this was just, I thought this was beautiful.
I'm not afraid.
Oh, hold on. I got to start it. Okay. Sombreros.
I'm not afraid. I am not afraid, and I won't back down.
I love that people may. I wish I was that talented, man. I wish I was that good at stuff like that, because it would be so much more amazing. Let's see. 8 minutes left. Let's talk a little bit about Jay Jones in Virginia. This is the guy running for attorney general. He's never really done anything, but the Democrats, well, I mean, you tell me why they picked this guy to run for attorney general. Let's be honest, right? Another Obama photocopy. Oh, he's just going to be, like what did Joe Biden call Obama? What do you say? A well-spoken, non-offensive black man or something like that. That's who they, once again, they're like, oh, this guy would be perfect for the attorney general spot. The highest law enforcement official in the land of Virginia. This guy will fit the bill amazingly. And then all of a sudden we find out that maybe not so amazingly, because Jay Jones was caught recklessly driving at 116 miles on I-64 in Virginia. He then tried to claim campaign work for his own PAC that counted as community service to avoid jail. So he's already showing that, like, he's going to skirt the system, right? And then the text messages come out, and these were against a Republican, a political opponent. This has been confirmed. It's not been denied. Read this. You weren't simply asking questions and you know it. He responds, Jones. I genuinely was. I wasn't attacking you. I was trying to understand your logic. You weren't trying to understand me. You were talking about hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die. To which he responded, yes, I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. So what the world is seeing right now is that he is fucking psychotic. And many on the left agree with this. You have to make people suffer to change their position. What is it when you use violence to change somebody's political ideals, force, or fear? That's terrorism. 101. The conversation continues. There isn't. I point blank asked you more than 3 times, and you dug in and you meant it. I honestly am questioning a lot today. Jones responded, I mean, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil and that they're breeding little fascists? Yes. This guy wants to be attorney general. They say nice things about everyone. He responds, if those guys die before me, I would go to their funerals and piss on their graves, sending them awash in something. Jay Jones, he continues, 3 bullets, 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Jokingly, but he says, I would let Hitler and Pol Pot live, who've killed millions, to kill Gilbert. Spoiler, put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people, and you know who receives the bullets every time. Jay, please stop. Now, this person typing them like, oh, shit, you're now putting me in a situation where I have to say something. It really bothers me when you were talking about hurting people and wishing death upon them. And he is still in the race. Abigail Spanberger, who's just a tart herself, has not asked him to step out. But as we've said before in this show and others, they always show you who they are. He's not going to be sorry he said it. He's going to be sorry it came out. These are his true beliefs. These are how he feels, and he is not the only one in the Democratic Party. When we talk about violence from the left, Joe talked about it at his show tonight. The video is up. This needs to get added to it because this is a threat of violence from the left against a politician that was in office. This is deplorable, disgusting, horrific, terrible, fucking subhuman. Mission Ready Men said there's a rumor saying Spanberger did ask him to drop out this. I hope she had enough balls to do that. That shouldn't even be a think play. The minute that came out and it was confirmed to be him, it should have been gone. Gone for the whole party. The entire party. Look, remind you, this is Virginia. Right next to D.C. Has a huge influence on D.C. A lot of politicians live in Virginia when they work in D.C. Being the AG in Virginia is like being an AG in any state, is a huge job, but you're also right, like constantly around the federal government. The entire federal government should have came out and said, yeah, dump this dude right away. Or the Democrats, I should say. But they didn't. Why? Why didn't every Democrat run to social media in Virginia and otherwise? Why didn't they absolutely condemn him for his comments immediately? He needs to leave. That should have all you saw inside your timelines and your news feeds. AG candidate forced to drop out. All Democrats hailed him as a monster. Nope. He may have gotten a phone call tonight, according to Mission Ready Men. May being the key word there. Because they don't condemn it. Indifferent, maybe. Oh, well, we'll see how that turns out for him. He's not wrong. But they don't condemn it outright. If this role was reversed, this would be on CNN, MSNBC. Fox News probably would have covered it too. It would have been everywhere. You couldn't get away from this story. But it's not. So now it's just kind of, well, you know, we'll see. And I'll tell you exactly what happened. They wait to see what the polling is on it before they decide to make a decision. So it's not right or wrong. It is what politically expedient or not. That's what it comes down to. They're waiting for the polling. And by the way, from what I read earlier today, he's now just crushed because most people are like, wow, this guy would be in charge of cops and the law of the land. I don't fucking think so. That's not how you should be acting if you want that job. Yeah, they haven't said anything because they don't think he did anything wrong, Mission Ready Men says in the chat. BZ says, just when you think it might be guaranteed, you get betrayed. So assume everything is going to be public at some point. 100%. 100%. There is no privacy anymore. Unless it's a one-on-one conversation. Excuse me. So for the last hour, I just showed you how rotten to the core a few of the many Democrats are. The party is, Antifa, and all the other ones. And I still had more to do tonight, but it's the end of the show. So I appreciate you spending your time with me. Please check out our friends over at KLRN Radio. They are fantastic, good friends of ours, and we appreciate them. I appreciate them simulcasting my show every Tuesday and Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 on the East Coast. You have Mission Ready Men with Big E, Tuesday and Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. You have BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, Mondays, Fridays, 6 p.m. Pacific. That's right. Jersey Joe's back. He had a great show tonight. Please make sure you go check it out if you can't. And check out the video he did about the rise of the leftist violence in this country. It is a great video. It's well worth your time. It's very educational, and it's all factual based. And of course, Sunday, as I said earlier, my good friend, your good friend, you know him, you love him, The Lost Wanderer, is going to be on at 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 on the East Coast. That's it for me, folks. Have a great rest of your night. Take care and be safe.